This video is brought to you by Nokian Tires, a leader in safety and sustainability. Maximize performance and efficiency with their made in USA all-season tires and their dedicated Hakkapeliitta EV winter line from the inventor of the winter tire. Learn more at nokiantire.com/EV. This video is also brought to you by Magna, forward for all. Hello, good evening, and welcome. We're going to make this one quick. We're doing a 10% challenge in our old Audi E-Tron. Max recently ran the brand new E-Tron in the 10% challenge, and well, now it's time to at least see what this one will do in comparison. The 10% challenge simulates the road trip range of an electric vehicle. It's actually the most important figure of an EV in my mind. I'll walk you through the testing procedures. We'll go run the test. We'll make this one super quick, super sweet, and then we'll do the E-Tron thing. This is what this car is good at. So while I have left the car running to discharge down to 10% from 11%, let me explain to you what this test is. Well, the idea is, I guess we could have called it the 15-minute challenge or the 10% challenge. You guys always tell me I'm wrong with the 10% challenge thing. To me, it makes more sense this way. It doesn't matter what it's called. Ultimately, what matters is the result. And the whole idea is you're on a road trip, you get to a DC fast charger at 10% state of charge, which we find most viewers feel comfortable plugging in there. Typically, I'm there at, 0 to 2%. Some other people get nervous at 20%. We figured 10% is a reasonable place to plug in. We then charge the car for exactly 15 minutes, and we choose a high-power charging station with a car that can accept all the power that it's capable of doing, which means I've already warmed up the battery on this car. I've set tire pressures. It's ready to go. We're going to charge for 15 minutes on the nose, and then we're going to drive 80 miles an hour on the highway in a loop-style test, as we do with every car. And the whole idea is to see how far we can go until we dip back down to 10%. So that's the idea. Of course, we've tested the outright range of this E-Tron, 225 miles at 70 miles an hour, beating EPA, which is great. This is a 2019 E-Tron, which is the pre-refresh car. And yeah, what do you need to know about it? 86.5 kilowatt hour usable. You can pick them up used for just around $30,000 now, which is the deal of the century. I think we paid $70,000 for this one used only a year and a half ago. So just an insane deal on the market. Unbelievable comfort, bank vault feeling. Just awesome, but not the most efficient car. So when we get it plugged in, I'll walk you through some of the charging curve, why the E-Tron is so special, and why you can't just read the numbers on paper. But yeah, we should be at 10% now, so let's get it plugged in. You join me inside the E-Tron. I'm just waiting for the 11 to dip down to a 10. I actually thought I wouldn't even make a video with this car because it's an old car that's not super relevant, but I figured, hey, if I'm doing the test, you guys may as well join me for it so you can see what's going on. It's starting to get a little bit chillier in Colorado, 60 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Sorry for blinding this guy. Got the high beams on, the heated and AC seats on both sides, heater on max, just trying to burn that last bit of juice right here. So as soon as this dips down to 10, we'll shut the loads off, plug it in, and then we'll set climate control to 68 degrees on auto, like you would simulate on a road trip. So again, I'll keep you with me for the whole test, but these things are awesome. We're at the EVgo Delta site. That should give us full power. So looking forward to this. And there we are, 10% state of charge. So let's set this down to 68. We'll put it in eco climate. We'll shut it off. We'll turn the seats off. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Wow, there's so much to shut off. Oh, I accidentally turned it on. Go off, headlights off, car off. Okay, there we go. That's what we want. Wow, we had a lot of accessories running. So I'm going to get this plugged in. We'll time the handshake, although that's typically up to the charger. We'll watch the charging performance, and we'll let it charge for exactly 15 minutes on the nose. So let me get it plugged in. I'll tap my card, and we'll get this going. So a long handshake, 48 seconds there, but you can see we are plugged in and we are now at 10% state of charge. You can see that the charger is communicating a max of 190 amps, but just give it a second and it'll ramp up. It's just a weird limitation. There we go. Now the charger says, I can give you everything, 540 amps. This Delta seems to be on new software, so we get about, I don't know, 10 seconds of limited power at the beginning, and then it'll shoot up to full power. So now we're rocking along. So what's the magic of the e-tron, you ask? Why do I love this car so much? Well, certainly it doesn't have all that much range, and you can tell we have our 2019 e-tron 55. If for those European viewers, that's the trim level. In the US, we only get the 55. But I actually have this car returned to stock because we were doing some Q8 testing, and we're about to put the big wheels back on it and the roof box and everything tomorrow, the Martian wheels. And I thought, okay, let's get this thing juicing. And you can see it's just sitting at 140 kilowatts now, which doesn't seem like too much, especially in the modern context. But this thing will hold 140, 150, 152 kilowatts all the way to 80% state of charge, which means there's not so much of a charging curve. It's more like a charging plateau, which is just amazing. Also, for those in Europe, actually, you can now get this battery pack, which I prefer to the Q8 battery, if you get the standard e-tron 50. In the US, we will only get the new big battery, but I believe this battery is now sold as the standard e-tron, which I would go for, actually. I think it charges amazing. It has so much cobalt in the battery that it just absolutely rips. And yeah, it'll just sit, you can tell it's a high voltage car, 400 volt, even at 16%. That's the magic of the e-tron. You can plug it into a amperage limited charger and still get a ton of power. So for ChargePoint Express and ChargePoint 250s, this thing just rockets on a charge. Really, Audi did some amazing stuff here. In the new Q8 version that Max already tested, it actually starts out and has a little bit higher peak, but does not have the top end charging that this car has. Because it has so much cobalt in there and big buffers, it just charges up to like 95, 100% in no time at all. So I think in the 15-minute, 10% challenge test, it's going to do comparable to the Q8 e-tron, which did about 80 something miles. I'll have to check. In this test, I think we'll see just over 80 miles in this one. It was actually slightly more efficient than the Q8 e-tron when we tested it, and the conditions are perfect now. No wind, yeah, a little bit chilly, but the car's warmed up, so no problems. And yeah, it's just sitting pegged at 350 amps, getting everything it wants. So we'll let it charge for exactly 15 minutes. We'll then jump out on the highway. Oh, wait, I have to put air conditioning on. Holy smokes. Let's get the AC set. Thankfully, I remembered that pretty early on. So come on, Audi, let's go. Turn on climate control. We have to run climate control while we're charging. So maybe it got a slight advantage here. There we go. Climate control on. Ambient lighting on. The one thing I have to do is actually go in here, click this one, immediate start, and this will let the air conditioning and heater run. So we run 68 auto on eco mode. We'll roll up the windows. We can hit view over here on the steering wheel as long as we clear this message. You can see we're getting 140 kilowatts. Everything the car wants. Thank goodness we caught that in time. Less than 3 minutes into the session. But yeah, we are rocking. So just a recommendation to any of the viewers out there, if you're in the market for an electric car or even just an extra car, this is a $90,000 Audi that really isn't different much at all than the brand new Q8. And again, in colder temperatures, it'll charge even better because of all that cobalt in the battery, which like isn't a good thing. So I'm glad Audi took a lot of it out. But if you're going to buy a used one, well, okay, it's already in there. And these things just rock. They are awesome. And someone just bought one of our viewers, for $29,000, a Prestige with like just over 40,000 miles. That's insane. The market's going to definitely come back up on these, is my guess. I really hope Audi joins Tesla North American charging standard to have access to the superchargers, because this will work perfectly with Magic Docks. Magic Docks and well, actually, I guess you could use Magic Docks on them now, but they have a 350 amp limitation. So you'll get everything the car is asking for on that. They're so comfortable, pretty good driver assistance, amazing sound system, best ride quality. There's my 1-minute sales pitch as to why you need to go buy a used E-Tron. Truly, I love ours. Whenever I have to pop down to Denver or do an airport run, this is the car I want to hop into every time. It's just a bank vault, so quiet, so comfortable, very inefficient. If it's your only car and you have to do a lot of range, probably not for you, because in the winter time, we might only get 170, 180 miles out of it on a charge. But for just around town driving and the occasional trek, 100 miles for us, it's no problem at all. Let's take a look to see how it's charging. Well, I still have air conditioning running in there perfectly fine. We are now 8 minutes into our charging session, so about halfway, and no big peaks here. Like I said, you can see pack voltages coming up, which means our charging power is slightly increasing. We've already added 20 kilowatt hours in 8 minutes. This is one of those cars you plug in, you go grab dinner, you let charge up to 80, 90, 95% state of charge, and then you do a 150-mile stretch on the highway. That's how we've road tripped this car across the country. It's been amazing. By the way, if you're curious about our car's performance versus a brand new one, at least in this test, it doesn't matter too much because we're getting full charging speed the whole time. We only have about 25,000 miles on this particular car. We are on the factory tires. Everything is set to factory, so this should be almost identical performance from 2019 to 2023 Audi E-Tron 55. That's what we're seeing here. Or the 2024 onward Audi E-Tron 50 has this battery in it. So it all should be pretty similar to this right there. We're up to 144 kilowatts, still sending it away. Well, we are just about 1 minute away from being at the end of our charging session. We're at 147 kilowatts. You can see we are at 53% state of charge. The car's predicting only another 9 minutes to get up to 80%. The thing with the E-Tron is the deeper you charge, the faster it charges. You can see we're already up to 147 kilowatts. This is what's called a constant current, constant voltage charging profile. Just sits at 350 amps, and as the voltage comes up, your total power, and you'll start to see about 152, 153 kilowatts all the way up at 80% state of charge. So that is the magic of this car. You don't have to run it dead to get to a charger. You can just take advantage of these awesome charging curves. So only another 10 seconds left to go. What we're going to do is we're going to stop charging. We'll then immediately shut off climate control in the car so there's no parasitic draw. 3, 2, 1, stop charging. Stop. Great. Okay, let's let that go. Let's shut off climate control. Let's go. Boom, boom, boom. Off. Car off. Great. So it's still processing our data. We'll unplug the car. Nice. Cable's still nice and cool. All good. The car is completely off, so there's no more parasitic draw on it whatsoever. Here we go. 15 minutes and 1 second. 35.3849 kilowatt hours. We've ended at 55%. Cost us $18. So 15 minutes, 35 kilowatt hours. That is a significant way off of the 800 volt cars that do, 55 kilowatt hours we've seen in Taycan and Lucid. But again, we're talking about a used E-Tron that's 30 grand. Really not bad. Let's not delay. Let's get in. Let's reset the trip computer and let's go. That will be the best thing to do. I have to unplug the seatbelt, actually. I left it on so the car wouldn't shut off. So there we go. Seatbelt off and around to me. Welcome, Alyssa. Sorry for stealing your car. Okay, well, door closed. We will say, okay, we can use Alyssa's profile. That's totally fine. Let's go powered on. Let's put the car into eco mode. Efficiency. Climate control off just for a second. No massaging seats, no heated seats. Let's reset our trip computer here. There we go. We're in efficiency mode. We are at 55% state of charge. So let's head right onto the highway. Climate control on at 68. No time for delay. Let's rock and roll. And actually, Ryan should be here maybe by the time we get back, doing the 10% challenge in the Lexus RZ. So off we go then onto the highway. I'll see you as we're merging on, and we'll go set a lap record here, hopefully. I don't know. Definitely not. This thing is not going to be at the top of the leaderboard, but it shouldn't be too bad. Let's do it. As we are just waiting to get onto the highway, I love this feature where the car will tell me how many seconds left I have until the light goes green. So 9 seconds, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. It stops at 3, 2, 1. Green. How about that? There's a bunch of connected cities in the Denver area, and I don't know, we pay way too much money a year for a subscription to that, but it's totally worth it. It's so cool. Love that feature. So yeah, let's merge onto the highway here, get it up to 80 miles an hour and do the thing. Here we are now, just gently merging onto the highway. We're going to get ourselves up to 80 miles an hour, merge onto the toll road, and then set the cruise control. So just gentle accelerations, nothing crazy, just keeping consistent throttle as usual as we make our way up to 80. And we'll lock it in and cruise. And man, this car is just so quiet and so comfortable and just epic at the cruising thing. It's just wonderful. So 78, 79, 80, locked in on lane centering. There we go. Let's do this thing. Ooh, Mustang Mach-E on a trailer. Interesting. All right, let's see if we can take this off-ramp at 80 miles an hour. It's got a good enough grip, I think. Let's do it. We have great driving conditions tonight. I'm actually just sitting in the left lane, so that guy in the right doesn't give us any aero advantage. He's going the exact same speed we are, but we're cruising along here. We're about 10 minutes in. Our average speed is low because, of course, we got stuck at some traffic lights getting on, but we are doing 80, so that makes sense. He's probably far enough ahead where we can pop into the right lane now. And yeah, perfect. No traffic, just sitting at 80 miles an hour. It's what we like to see. Well, we've been driving in one direction for almost 30 minutes or so. We're getting close to halfway through our test. I've just entered in back to where we started. Typical around halfway, we always enter in the charging that we started at just so it can precondition on the way if it needs to. However, this car doesn't do on-route battery preconditioning, so it doesn't matter. It says we'd get there at 13%, so I think I'll go one more exit down. That way we at least hit 10% while cruising at 80. And there will be no issues at all. So far, we've been averaging 2 miles per kilowatt hour, but again, that doesn't really mean anything because we've headed in one direction with a minimal wind, but we won't really know the true efficiency at 80 until we turn around. One point I didn't make in this video yet is this is the worst case scenario for an E-Tron. This is the heaviest, the Prestige on the big 21-inch wheels. So at least in the early cars, you can spec them with smaller wheels and even an aero wheel package that will perform better than this one. So yeah, this is kind of cool, the low benchmark, if you will. And even then, I think it's doing acceptably well. Well, we are just taking our exit here, so let's exit now. It says we'll get back at 10% state of charge, just kicking it off 80 miles an hour and taking the off-ramp. There's actually 3 levels of regen in this car. We'll just use the first level, actually on one level, and then max regen, which still isn't even that strong. Nice, easy off-ramp. Looks like we'll just make 2 left turns, get right back on the highway. Love to see that. So let's ease off, and then we'll turn left. By the way, the magic of the E-Tron in the 10% challenge doesn't really show because the deeper you're able to charge, the better this car gets. Because the curve just gets better and better and better, this actually is one of the few cars that can do better in real life than even the 10% challenge shows, because there's no reason to ever unplug at a DC charger in an E-Tron unless you're over 80% state of charge, because again, it charges faster all the way to 80%. So unlike most cars where you want to unplug just enough to get to the next station and arrive dead to take advantage of a fast charging point when you're down low, state of charge, this one, you actually want to ride the higher bit of the battery. And so it would do better if we plugged in at 30% state of charge than if we plugged in at 10. But these are the procedures for this car. But I just wanted to let you know, this is really the anomaly for this test. So it would be interesting to do another one where we plugged in at 30 or 40% state of charge and charged for 15 minutes. We'd probably go another, 5 or 8 miles on top of what we'll see in this test, just because it can charge faster deeper into the pack. And here we are, green light to turn left. We are merging back onto the highway. Again, gentle accelerations, just bringing us up to speed. Beautiful night, beautiful conditions, slightly chilly out there, but it doesn't seem to be affecting our results too much. And again, the car was already preconditioned while we were charging, so it's just kind of going. By the way, the E-Tron does have a heat pump and a resistive heater. I don't know how Audi made the car so inefficient, considering it's got induction motors and a heat pump, but somehow they found a way for electricity just to escape in this particular one. Thankfully, it charges really nicely. So we are locked in at 80 miles an hour, occasionally creeps up to 81, but there you go. It's just using lane centering and adaptive cruise control. Really nice car, great ambient lighting, great sound system. What more can I say? It's just one hell of a road tripping beast. I love this car. Too bad it relies on CCS infrastructure, although it does seem like the e-tron plays pretty nice with most of the infrastructure in the ground because it's not a high voltage car. You'll have a lot less issues charging this one publicly than, let's say, our Lucid, where we had a ton of issues with signet surge and other problems that don't affect this car. Well, this is the exit where we got onto the toll road right over here, and we are actually at 13% state of charge, so still just enough to get on the other side. It's as close to a loop as we can get it. Very pleased with that. And I actually checked. The Q8 e-tron did 73 miles, which means this is going to be almost identical, but I think we're just going to barely beat it. 12%. And we've done 71 miles so far. Yeah, the cruise control just wanted us to get off that exit there, and it tries to slow for exits, so I had to force it to go a little bit faster, or just not to slow down, if you will. So, yep, we are all good. We're at 12% state of charge, cruising along the highway. And yeah, I think this thing's going to beat the Q8 just by a smidge, but it's still going to beat it, which actually isn't a surprise to me because this car's always been slightly more efficient than the Q8, at least in our testing so far. And the charging would have been pretty similar in this state of charge range. There we go, 10% state of charge, 73.2 miles. So actually identical to the Q8 e-tron. How about that? That is hilarious. Now, will we make it back to the charger? The answer is yes, at 3%. Very good. So, yeah, we were on a stretch. I think Max actually turned around at that previous exit. I probably should have done the same thing. I think we did the exact same loop between Q8 and non-Q8, and the identical result, which is so fascinating. So let's get back to the charger. We'll plug in. I'll give you my final thoughts, and that'll be that. And we have arrived back to the charger. It's just going through its handshake process, which takes a while on these Delta units. Again, sometimes the car is slow, sometimes the chargers are slow. We've arrived back at 5% state of charge, totally fine. Again, does this weird max 195 amp situation, and then we'll just ramp up here momentarily after 15 or 20 seconds. I'm not sure why they do that. And there you go. Now we're at 350 amps, everything it can get, boom. Anyway, so really interesting test. Let me give you my final thoughts. I got to charge up enough to make it back up to Fort Collins, so I'll probably charge up to 80% realistically, something like that. Do a pretty deep charge, and yeah, should be good. So very interesting results here. It shows we got the identical number to what the Q8 e-tron did. So actually, it's a little bit surprising. So my understanding is Q8 e-tron probably started charging a little bit slower than this car, but maybe ramped up a little bit faster towards the end, just based off of its charging curve and its battery pack voltage compared with this one. So it shows that if you're going to spend the extra money, let's just say you buy a used one for 30 grand or a new one for 94,000, 93,000, your road trip range is identical. This car will charge better in cold weather because of the cobalt in the battery pack. It's slightly more efficient when we ran both back to back. And the only thing you gain with the Q8 is, what do you gain? A little bit more range on a full charge, and it's a significant amount actually. It's about 65 miles, something like that. 60 to 70 mile difference on a full charge. But once you exhaust that full charge range when you're on a trip, then they become equal. So I just don't see, like, I'd rather have 3 old e-trons than 1 new Q8. Certainly if you're just leasing them, then yeah, you're not going to have a bad experience with the new Q8. There's nice small little adaptations to it, but this one rides pretty comfortably. And anyway, it's just like, okay, really amazing results. That's why we do this testing, because on paper, it looks like the Q8 is so much better. 170 kilowatt charging versus 150, 270 mile EPA range versus 225. But in actuality, they're a lot closer than you would think. Yeah, the Q8 goes farther on a single charge. So I'm really impressed here. I think that's a fascinating result. Tomorrow morning, I'm swapping on the blacked out 22-inch Martian wheels back on this thing, and the roof bar. It's going to look so much better than it does now. If you're in the market for an electric car, truly buy a used e-tron now when they've hit the floor. It's just an amazing value and totally livable range. The main problem, of course, is relying on the public infrastructure, but I think if you're a little bit adventurous, you can deal with it, and it's totally worth it, especially if your road trips are infrequent. So there's my take on it. Can't wait to see what you guys think in the comments. I'm a little bit blown away by that result. Pretty fascinating. We'll see you on another one soon. Bye-bye.